The first step in the process is to remove the crank from your bicycle. Today I'm going to be demonstrating the install on a 105 crank by Shimano. It's the 5700 model. This particular crank has 2 pinch bolts on the non-drive side crank arm, as well as a special Shimano crank nut. So you might need a specific tool to loosen this. It's been done before without using the tool. I'm not going to condone that, but if you do not have this special tool, you might need to get a little crafty. There is also on this particular crank a feature, a safety feature with a locking little tab here. So you make sure that this is in the up position before removing the non-drive side crank arm. Consult your manufacturer's product manual for the specific crank that you intend to install the C1 power meter on. The next step in the process is to remove the chain rings from your existing crank. Depending on the crank that you're using, you might need a 5mm or a T30 Torx wrench. In this particular case, we're going to be using the T30 Torx wrench. Simply loosen all of the chainring bolts, and you might need to hold the nut on the either side of the crank, on the other side of the crank, as you do so. Make sure you don't lose any of the hardware, and then continue to do that all the way around. If the nut is spinning while you're turning the bolt, you might need to use the special slotted chainring nut tool. Once you've removed all of the chainring bolts and the chain rings from the crank, you are ready to install the C1 power meter. Simply place the C1 power meter over the spindle of the crank, lining up the little feature on the chain ring there to prevent the chain from getting caught in between the crank and the chain rings. Like so. Note that I've lined up all of the bolt holes on the sensor with the holes on the chain ring or the crank spider. Once everything is lined up, you'll grab one of the contoured nuts and place it through the chainring crank spider rather, and thread one of the T30 torque bolts on the other side. It's important not to tighten it at this point. You can go just finger tight, and then continue to do that all the way around the crank. When you've got all of the chainring bolts and contoured nuts in place, you'll want to flip it over to the Torx side of the chainring bolt. Note that there are 10 on this side, and 5 of them actually have a small rubber plug in them, and that's to prevent you from tightening those. Those are the connection point between the sensor ring and the chain ring, and the torque needs to be very specific on those and very even. We do that at the factory to ensure accuracy of the power meter. So you want to make sure not to tighten any of the ones that have the rubber plug in them. Start at the top and torque it down, and then move around the crank in a star pattern, tightening each one a little bit more as you go. And follow the torque specification from the user manual when doing this. Continue around the crank until each one of them is evenly torqued. After that, it should look like this. Note that the electronics pod is offset to the right. From there, you're ready to install the crank back on your bike. Again, reference the product manual for the specific crank that you're using for reinstallation of the crank to your bicycle. And then you're ready to go. If you like that video and want to watch more PowerTap videos, click here. If you want to subscribe to our PowerTap YouTube channel, click here. Thank you.